Hari, Nandi Vihari Prabhu got second initiation yesterday.
Thank you.
So beautiful. And his wife Chinmay. So
Yeah, she's right here listening, waving.
Oh, congratulations to both of them. How do you feel?
How do I feel? I feel uplifted. I feel unworthy, and I feel blessed. So many blessings was received yesterday.
Wow, so beautiful. Amazing. So happy for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we'll start with Jai Radha Madhava. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jannavala Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Jannavala Girivaradari Yashodanandana Vajjanaranjana Yashodanandana Vajjanaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada 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 Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Reading today from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 25, Text 17. Nahi sadbhava yuktanam suranam isha vishmaya mato satam manabangha prasamayo pakalpate Nahi sadbhava yuktanam suranam isha vishmaya mato satam manabanga prasamayo pakalpate Nahi sadbhava yuktanam suranamisha vishmaya mato satamana bangha prasamaya upakalpate. Synonyms: na, not, he, certainly, satbhava, with the mode of goodness, yuktanam, who are endowed, suranam, of the demigods, isha, as controlling lords, vishmaya, false identification, mataha, by me, asatam, of the impure, mana, of the false prestige, bangaha, the eradication, prasamaya, for relieving them, upakalpate, is intended. Translation and purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Since the demigods are endowed with the mode of goodness, the false pride of considering oneself the Lord should certainly not affect them. When I break the false prestige of those bereft of goodness, my purpose is to bring them relief. Report. The demigods are supposed to be. So it says supposed to be because in the verse it's saying that the demigods are endowed with the mode of goodness. The false pride of considering oneself the Lord should certainly not affect them. But in this case, it is affecting Indra. Indra is considering basically himself the Lord, and he is forgetting that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and thinking he's just a little cowherd boy. So he's referring to Indra when he says, when I break the false prestige of those bereft of goodness, or ones who have kind of fallen down from that platform of goodness, and his purpose is to bring them relief. So the demigods are supposed to be sadbhava yukta, endowed with spiritual existence, since they are deputed servants of the Supreme Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita 4:24, it is stated, Brahmarpanam Brahmahavir Brahmagna Brahmanahutam Brahmeva Tena Gantavyam Brahma Karma Samadhina. That which is duly offered to the Lord becomes spiritualized. The demigods engage in the devotional service of the Lord by managing various departments of cosmic administration. Therefore, as demigods or as servants of the Lord, their existence is pure, sadbhava. When the demigods fail to live up to the high position given them by the Lord and deviate from proper behavior, they are not acting as demigods, but rather as conditioned souls. Mana, or false prestige, is certainly an anxiety-ridden burden for the conditioned soul. A falsely proud person is not truly peaceful or satisfied because his understanding of himself is false and inflated. When a servant of the Lord becomes asat, or irreligious, the Lord saves him from impiety by breaking the false prestige that has led him to be offensive or sinful. As stated by the Lord himself, Yasyaham anuguranami harisyetad dhanam sanhai. I give my blessings to a person by taking away his so-called opulence. Of course, the advanced stage of devotional service to the Lord, as described by Rupa Goswami, is yukta vairagya, utilizing the opulence of this world to execute the Lord's mission. Obviously, the things of this world can be used wonderfully to spread the glories of God and to create a godly society, and a more advanced devotee will not be seduced by material paraphernalia, but will dutifully and honestly engage it solely for the pleasure of the Lord. In this particular case, Lord Indra forgot that he was a humble servant of God, and Lord Krishna therefore arranged to bring this bewildered demigod to his senses. You can join me in praying to our acharyas and Krishna for their blessings to be able to understand, assimilate, and speak. Om Agyanatimirandasya Jananjana Chalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jaina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Bhagavatam Mayam Tadari Svabhudandigam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yura Parakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sarvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Tanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sudhe Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Paraya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachadine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Vashatara Shatadine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you all so much for attending Srimad Bhagavatam class, and another really big congratulations to Anandi Bihar Guru and Chinmay for getting their second initiation day yesterday. Really auspicious. Thank you all for being here and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. I pray to each and every one of you, please give me your blessings and your prayers that I may speak according to Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra for my own purification and for your and mine coming closer to pure devotional service and love for Krishna and Srimad Bhagavatam. Jai. Wow, this is such a beautiful verse and purport. There's just like so much in here that when we were reading it yesterday, we were like, okay, yeah, there's a lot of material there. I can just like go through the purport and like talk about it. So as we all know, as we have been discussing in all the different Srimad Bhagavatam classes, that Indra, who's actually an amazing devotee of Krishna, it's just, as you all know, he has struggles, in the Srimad Bhagavatam. He has many times made mistakes, but because Radhanath Swami always says in his Srimad Bhagavatam classes that when we make mistakes, nobody writes it down in the Srimad Bhagavatam. But when Indra, because Indra is such a great devotee of Krishna, when he makes mistakes, two things happen. The Lord goes to real extremes to rectify him and to bring him back to the right understanding and the right consciousness, because the Lord loves him. And also it gets written in the Srimad Bhagavatam, so we all can learn from it. And yeah, basically when Krishna, when the bridge basis do not perform the sacrifice to Indra, but instead perform the beautiful, ecstatic Govardhan Puja, Indra becomes very angry and very bewildered. And I'll just pull up here 10, 25. Yeah. So yeah, basically you all have heard in the previous verses about how Indra became angry because they were accepting Krishna as their Lord and not him as their Lord. And he sent forth the clouds of universal destruction, the Samvartaka clouds. And he spoke, just see how these cowherd men living in the forest have become so greatly intoxicated by their prosperity. They have surrendered to, he calls Krishna, an ordinary human being, and thus they have offended the gods. Their taking shelter of Krishna is just like the foolish attempt of men who abandon transcendental knowledge of the self and instead try to cross over the great ocean of material existence in the false boats of fruitive ritual sacrifices. These cowherd men have acted inimically toward me by taking shelter of this, again, calling Krishna ordinary human being who thinks himself very wise, but who is simply a foolish, arrogant, over-talkative child. He's being offensive right now. He's literally like blaspheming Krishna and saying he's foolish, he's arrogant, he's over-talkative. And he's telling the clouds, he's actually saying that the prosperity of these people have made them mad with pride. So it's so interesting because as this whole story is pointing out, Indra is the one that has pride, but Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says, often when we point one finger at someone else and we say, they're so lusty, or they're so envious, or they're so whatever, we need to point two fingers back at ourselves, because what we do is what the anartas that are inside of us, we project them onto other people, or we see them in other people, and we don't like them in other people because we have them in ourselves. So he's saying these people are mad with pride. They have so much arrogance, but he's actually the one who's having the arrogance. So the universal clouds, they come and they begin to torment the inhabitants, pouring down these torrents of rain. And the rain is like as thick as massive columns. And all the cows and other animals, they approach Krishna for shelter, because that's what they always do when anything happens. They go to Krishna. Krishna, you are my shelter. Please protect us. In every circumstance of life, if whatever happens, we should just go to Krishna. And when they approach Krishna, they are asking Krishna to save them. And what Krishna does is he starts speaking to himself. The reason why Indra has caused this unreasonable rain is because we have stopped this sacrifice. And he says that by his mystic power, he will counteract this disturbance caused by Indra. Demigods like Indra, this is the verse before today, is when he's starting to explain. And he says in yesterday's verse, demigods like Indra are proud of their opulence, and out of foolishness, they falsely consider themselves the Lord of the universe. I will now destroy such ignorance. And in today's verse, he's explaining that basically demigods are supposed to be endowed with the mode of goodness. And when you're in the mode of goodness, that false pride of considering yourself the Lord doesn't affect you. And in the purport, the disciples of Prabhupada are saying that this is how demigods are supposed to be. And again, when we hear these terms in the Srimad Bhagavatam all the time, demigod and demon. What does demigod and demon really mean? Demon is not necessarily, it can mean a very scary, ugly looking creature, but not necessarily. There's many different kinds of demons, and just the definition of demon is someone who does not accept the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the definition of demigod is one who does. So we see here in this pastime, is Indra recognizing that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or is he saying that he's just a talkative, foolish boy? He's saying he's just a talkative, foolish boy. So although he has the body of a demigod, he's bewildered in this moment and not acting like a demigod, because demigods are supposed to be deputed servants of the Supreme Lord. And they quote this beautiful verse of Bhagavad Gita: that which is duly offered to the Lord becomes spiritualized. So in our life, whenever we offer things to Krishna, that thing is no longer material. That thing actually becomes spiritual. And so the demigods, they're normally doing a lot of management. They're organizing all of these different departments of cosmic administration, which is like a really big deal. Last night we had a program with Sachinanda Maharaj, and I was in charge of the production. So we had two programs with Sachinanda Maharaj, and I was in charge of production for both, and like the setup and the prasadam transfer and the serve out and the cleanup and everything. And it seems like quite a production, but it's like what an ant manages compared to what the demigods are managing in the cosmic administration. But they're doing it all in the consciousness that this is their service to the Lord. So because they're in that consciousness, their existence is pure. So that's the definition of a pure existence. If we're doing something for us, then our existence is not pure. But if we're doing something for Krishna, then our existence is pure. But if a demigod fails to live up to this consciousness that they are the servant of the Lord and deviate from the proper behavior of offering everything to the Lord, the purport says they're actually not acting as demigods. They're acting as conditioned souls. So the next part of the purport is so beautiful. It says, mana or false prestige is certainly an anxiety-ridden burden for the conditioned soul. And it's just so funny because in this society, like regular society that we're living in right now, everybody wants to get rid of anxiety, right? And everyone wants peace, right? However, they're really propagating that people should become proud and like chase this prestige, chase success, chase name, chase fame, chase you know, prominent social circles and people loving you and all of these things. But that's all false prestige, and false prestige only causes anxiety. So as long as people are chasing those things, they cannot be truly peaceful or satisfied, because their understanding of themselves is false and inflated. I am the doer. I am doing all these great things. And they might feel some like rush and intoxication of like the excitement of chasing these things. But inside there's this extreme anxiety, actually. And people become very, very addicted to chasing these things. And even though that addiction is producing some anxiety, when you are covered by Maya, like even though you're experiencing anxiety, you're addicted to that thing, so you can't give it up. And you kind of convince yourself that that's not what's causing you anxiety. So when a devotee of the Lord becomes irreligious, the Lord saves him by breaking that devotee's false prestige that has led them to be offensive or sinful. And there's a beautiful, I was just reading on my Srimad Bhagavatam group the other day, in Srimad Bhagavatam 1:10-2, there's this beautiful quote in the purport. I want to read it. The Lord wants the suffering human beings to come back home, back to Him, and cease to suffer the threefold material pangs. He desires the mass people to follow the right path of self-realization, which enables living beings to enter into the kingdom of God. The whole plan of creation is made in that way, and one who does not come to his senses suffers in the material world by pangs inflicted by the illusory energy of the Lord. The Lord therefore wants his bona fide representative to rule the world. It's talking about in context why he wanted Maharaj Yudhisthira to rule the world and why the Battle of Kurukshetra took place. And just meditating on that, like this whole material world is really just an expansion of the Lord's love for us. We wanted to enjoy separately from the Lord. And because we wanted, and still do, as long as we're here, until we become pure, want to enjoy separately from the Lord created an entire material world to basically give us a playground to try our own God experiment and to give us free will, because you can't have true love without free will. But he creates it in such a way where people are rectified so that they eventually can wake up and choose to use their free will to love Krishna and to go back home, back to him. So in this case, it's really amazing. I mean, there's multiple layers of why the Lord performs the Govardhan pastime. He wants to establish the position of Govardhan Hill as none different than Krishna and glorify Govardhan Hill. He wants to propagate pure devotional service unto him. He wants to establish this Govardhan Puja, this great celebration with all the residents of Vrindavan. But he's also orchestrating all of this just to bring Indra back to his senses. And because he loves him and he doesn't want him to go away from him. So he says, I give my blessings to a person by taking away his so-called opulence. So sometimes if a devotee is puffed up by some material opulence, the Lord takes it away to sober him. But it says in the next paragraph, of course, the advanced stage of devotional service to the Lord, as described by Rupa Goswami, is yukta vairagya, utilizing the opulence of this world to execute the Lord's mission. Obviously, the things of this world can be used wonderfully to spread the glories of God and to create a godly society, and a more advanced devotee will not be seduced by material paraphernalia, but will dutifully and honestly engage it solely for the pleasure of the Lord. So in this particular case, Lord Indra forgot that he was a humble servant of God, and Lord Krishna therefore arranged to bring this bewildered demigod to his senses. So when Krishna has to take someone's opulence away, that's actually because they're not at such a, an advanced stage. But if someone is in an advanced stage, they're not like disturbed or distracted by the opulences of the world, and they see all things as Krishna's energy and to be used in Krishna's service, then they can actually engage all the different things of the world in Krishna's service. So that's yukta vairagya, and that's actually the highest stage. And the things of this world can be used really wonderfully in Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada, he said, some so-called renunciates say, I will not take money. I say, show me money and I'll put my two hands out to take it, but to use it for Krishna, not to use it for my own personal sense gratification, but to use it for Krishna. And sometimes it's very, very subtle. Sometimes as devotees, we can think, yeah, I'm using this money for such, but I'm doing it all for Krishna. And then we really have to ask ourselves, are we doing this for Krishna, or are we doing this for, ourselves? So we can have things, and we should use, Krishna should be in the center, and we should use those things to spread Krishna's glories, to give Krishna consciousness to others. One time I was talking to Gauravani after he organized this beautiful Chant for Change program at the Lincoln Memorial. And he was saying, sometimes as devotees, we think, oh yeah, the celebrities, they have all the nice venues and they do everything first class. But for Krishna, we should just have something like simple. And he said, that's not the proper consciousness. Actually, the proper consciousness is the best things, the best venues, the most first class. That should be used for Krishna. Krishna should have the best of everything. When reporters asked Prabhupada, like about, I think it was like his car or something, he basically was like, we should have, I forget which kind of car he said, like something like Rolls Royce or something, because he was saying like we should have the best for Krishna. So we shouldn't think, oh, let's just put together this small little rinky-dink, program, and that's good enough for Krishna. We should be thinking, how can we do amazing things for Krishna? How can we make things attractive and nice and professional and beautiful and attract people to Krishna's service? Yeah. And then when we do that, we're protected. Sometimes that fear can come of, oh, well, if I engage with nice things or I engage in that energy, will I become affected by it? And will I become proud? And the answer is, as long as we are really constantly reminding ourselves of why we're doing it and that we really are doing it as a service for Krishna, we will be protected. There's the famous story in the Chaitanya Charitamrita of Vasudeva, the leper, and he had leprosy, and then Lord Chaitanya cured him. And after Lord Chaitanya cured him of his leprosy, Vasudeva, he started to get afraid that now everybody will look at me and they will think that is the leper that was cured by Lord Chaitanya, and I will become proud. And he asked Lord Chaitanya how to be protected from this pride. And Lord Chaitanya said, constantly chant the holy name yourself, and everyone you meet, share the holy name and Krishna consciousness with others, and you will never become proud. So in our life and in our service, we should accept things for Krishna's service, and we should continuously chant the holy name. And we don't have so much time to get so much into this, but Satyananda Maharaj was just here last night, and he's wrote this beautiful book, The Living Name, and it's really his mission to take people from chanting inattentively to chanting attentively. Because when the Lord said constantly chant the holy name, he wasn't propagating mindless chanting. There is a world of difference between inattentive chanting and real attentive chanting. He was propagating sincere, focused, attentive, prayerful chanting. And this is the kind of chanting that we want to do, and the kind of chanting that will protect us from pride, because it's said that what is the root cause of all offenses? When we recite the 10 offenses, it's actually inattentive chanting. But if we chant attentively and are also aware of the other 10 offenses and trying to avoid them, we will be protected from making those offenses. So we have about 4 minutes left. I want to open it up for realizations, questions, and comments. Yeah.
Wonderful class. So what to do for the people who are busy with their careers, their works, they cannot chant all the time the holy name of the Lord. And it's somebody might say, I'm limited with how much I can share Krishna consciousness. I'm just busy. What to do?
Thank you. If you want to make excuses, then there will always be an excuse. But if you are really determined to be Krishna conscious and make things work, there will always be a way. So even if someone is busy with career and work and family life, they still need to prioritize their sadhana, their japa. Prabhupada said, health first, sadhana next, and service after that. So no matter what we're doing in our life, we should always carve out that time to prioritize our sadhana, our japa, and our hearing, which will then feed the rest of our life and give us the strength to do our other duties nicely. Ranaswami sometimes said in a Srimad Bhagavatam class that sometimes he's seen many, many times students who are in school, and the students that even when they're busy take the time to chant their japa, they actually end up doing better in school. They can focus better, and Krishna comes into their grades and their life and their tests and helps them. But those who give that up for the sake of studying, they don't necessarily do better. So it's all about balance. And even while we're doing our work, if we're doing something like, making a flower decoration for a wedding, because we're a flower decorator, we can be hearing or chanting while we do that. But for many people, their work, say you're a lawyer and you're in the courtroom, you definitely can't be chanting Hare Krishna out loud while you're doing that, but you can be remembering Krishna in your heart. If possible, you can be chanting in your heart, but if not possible, because you need to focus on what you're doing, just focus on what you're doing, but remember that what you're doing is an offering to Krishna. And then that becomes perfect. That activity becomes perfect. And so even if you're not chanting for most of the day, you're still executing devotional service because you are doing it for Krishna. And then you might think that, okay, I'm a lawyer, there's not so many ways I can share Krishna consciousness. But although you might get fired if you directly share about Krishna to someone, depending on what your job is, okay, maybe you can't do that, but you can bring prasadam to people at work, and you can do prasadam distribution. Or if you make a friend at work and they ask you about your life, you can share with them the festival that you were just at the night before, and you can share with them about Krishna. And you can put pictures up of Krishna at your desk, and play kirtan while you, do banking or whatever it is that you do. There's always ways to share Krishna with others that aren't necessarily the more traditional ways that we think about.
I thought, Champakalata, I thought you were going to say, there's always a way to get fired. But then you said, there's always a way to share Krishna consciousness. Yeah, thank you. I wanted to share a realization.
Please.
Adi and Angel, our morning bhajan band, they have such a wonderful venue, the back of the temple. So we should start a fundraiser to get them a Rolls Royce for their band. Distribution. Right? Contact me for that. I'm starting a fundraiser. Any further questions, dear devotees? Such a wonderful class. No excuses. No excuses. That's the name for this class.
Oh, Krishna. How do you push somebody?
Sue somebody for Krishna if you're a lawyer. No excuses.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, if we have the intention to do something to please Krishna, he'll show us. That's very good point. We're appreciating the fact that Satchidananda Maharaj is calling you to contribute to the society as a Brahmin. The Brahminical contribution is very important. And Prabhupada explained, I'm not making you a Brahmin. I'm expressing some confidence that you could serve like this. It's up to you to come up to the Brahminical standard. To explain the qualities of the Brahmin: peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, wisdom, religiousness, and the duties of the Brahmin: to study the scripture, to present the scripture, to engage in worship, to call other people into that experience and that discipline of worship, and to actually interact with the society, asking for donations, encouraging them to engage in devotional service, and to give back the donations in the form of temples and literature. And
Okay. Great class, Champakalata. Will you put us on the donation box? So thank you. Okay, dear devotees, turn on your cameras. Venetia, with you. Thank you. William, family. William on the bus. You should play kirtan on the bus. Amrita Kishori Didi, beautifying herself for Krishna. Wow, so cute. Amrita Kishori. Okay. Nandini Radhika, you're so devotional. Lord Krishna. Okay. All right. Have a wonderful day, everybody. It was very nice spending this morning hour with you, discussing Krishna and his pastimes. Yeah, no excuses. That's my takeaway. No excuses, Ananda Bihari. Okay, Hare Krishna.